Okay, folks, rule number 10. What exactly is the problem? We're joined here by Roger Caron. This would be CDMW's coach from football back in his Pomona College, Southern California days. This man had a philosophy or a thing that he expressed. I don't know that it was necessarily his main philosophy, but it was a thing known as can, can't. And we'll be thinking about what exactly is the problem, analyzing and identifying problems and putting them in a couple different categories and figuring out whether we can or can't beat them. All right, let's go ahead and fire this up. We've got a little footage here from Destiny 1, which is CD and I doing the hardcore Nightfall with just a pickup stranger because we knew we were good enough to beat the Nightfall on our own. So we would take anybody we want with us and basically we could carry them. And it was fun stuff. So what we want to do is learn to analyze problems. We're going to talk about, well, I'm going to say right away that when I'm talking about problems here in scare quotes or irony quotes, is a problem is just something that's keeping you from achieving what you want in the game. Mostly in the gaming context, we're going to mostly talk about like in gaming, but there are higher order problems that can happen here. So we'll mostly be talking about the lower order problems. Higher order problems are like, are you too drunk? Are you too high? Are you too old? Drunk and high, that makes sense. Old, I'm not just talking like ageism shit here, but sometimes it's possible that you're playing a game and your reaction times or your body is just failing you. Rock Band's like a good one where it's like maybe your reaction time makes it really hard for you to keep to react to like quickly changing charts that you don't know well. Those are ones you could practice and you could overcome your older delay. But also when you get maybe in Rock Band you just can't hit the notes if you were singing. You just couldn't do it, or you're not coordinated enough to do like the drumming stuff or some of the more complicated guitar like machinations you would need to do with your hands. These are all higher order problems that I would say you should. If you need help like figuring out like I can't hit the high note, why not, or whatever, like that's going to go above and beyond just like normal gaming problems. So lower order problems, there's a couple of categories I like to put them into, and it's like whether you need a whole new approach, which I would call a strategy over a tactic. Strategy is like the plan you make before you go in. The tactics are things you do in execution to achieve the strategy. Those are the problems that need a whole new approach, or problems that just need you to stick with the approach but practice that approach. Things that need a whole new approach. Sometimes a whole new approach just needs you to tweak something where you go and you research your approach and you're like, okay, my approach is solid, but I'm bringing the entirely wrong weapons or armor or skill set, in-game skills to what I'm trying to do. Team games may need you to move players around entirely to different positions and ask them to do things like completely differently. It's both harder and easier to analyze and go like, oh, is our approach entirely off in the modern era, the internet era, particularly in team games, because team games tend to have a lot of people like hitting it, and that has a great effect of like boiling down and creating a crucible of like the true, and there'd be multiple true ways, but the true way to beat this, the simplest and easiest foolproof way starts getting found. So you go using some of the things we talked about in the previous things of cultivating relationships with good people that want the best for you and your achievement in games, and treating yourself like you want the best for yourself as a good person, and looking for strategies and information at sites that will provide those things. You will find the answers of like whether your approach is completely wrong. Let's talk about things where your approach is right, but it's maybe you just need to practice. That's like almost number one. You should give something a couple of tries before you completely start changing things. Tweaking them is different. How do you know whether it's something that is requiring a whole new approach, or maybe just need to practice it? One of the ways to do that is to think about how long it takes you until you fail. Is it just like a quick thing that you can like you can iterate and retry and practice quickly? And is it practicable, or is it something in the game where it's like, well, I need to have that down because I only get one shot at it? Maybe these scenarios show up more than you think in games. Sometimes things are just one shot because, like, yeah, it comes up, and if you don't do it the first time, you're like locked out of it. There's always a handful of like achievements and things in games that like that happens to you. In correct approach things, sometimes there's a tweak. So changing your entire approach to a thing might be like, I'm bringing the entirely wrong weapons. In tweakable approaches, correct versions, it's not that you're necessarily bringing the wrong weapons, but maybe you didn't power them up all the way. Maybe you could need to repair them or make sure your stuff is fully charged before you go in. Again, in multiplayer games, this is harder or easier because you have people's personalities, and you could say to them like, hey, can you change like this little thing you're doing, or can you make sure you have the right weapon equipped? And then you have to fight with people and their personalities. And in the Roger Caron style, can people do it or can't they do it? It's as long as they can, everything's fine. If right now they can't, that's a different problem. Might be good for me to just kind of get into like the Destiny 2 aspects of this, which was like in Destiny 2, this is Destiny 1 you're watching, this is a Nightfall. But in Destiny 2, it became really fun for me to be sherping and teaching and taking people into raids and getting like really good at analyzing what's going wrong and what can we do about it. In multiplayer games, it's not just complex in like knowing the strategy and seeing what's wrong with the strategy, but you also have to analyze what's going on with the moving parts and those moving parts are like people. And are those people getting tired? Are they getting burned out? Is that like the really big problem, or did someone just have a bad run? Did a couple people have a bad run at once? Are there people who are inconsistent being teamed up together, and maybe we could like move them around? Like say it's a 6-player thing, and you could take teams of 2, 2, 2, and you go like, well, let's take one guy from here and one guy from here and swap them. We take team A and team C and crossbreed those. Team B, you're doing fine. Or maybe it's like ABC, everybody moves over to one side, and you're like, okay, there, good. And then you have to look at, in Destiny 1, CD and I took like a lot more goofy people. Like we were like Ronins of the LFG, and we would form like raid teams that were like anybody can come on board and anybody can play with us. And when you would go to the LFG, you'd see people that are like, you have to know what you're doing or you can't fucking join my team. And we were like, oh, our like impression, our like feedback on that was like, we don't want to be like those guys. So we would take anybody into the team that we could. But honestly, when you have like a badass someone like Roger Caron here saying like, can you do it or can't you do it? That is amazing, because like you say can, and they say I can do it. Okay, get in here. And if they can't, or you could look at them and be like, you can't? Oh, then get the fuck out. But that meant like he was like eliminating a lot of the analysis we were doing here and just saying like, you have to have done it before, which proves that you can. So when we would go into D1, we would take anybody with us, and holy moly, did the problems become just the roughest stuff. You had to actually start thinking about, will we ever beat this, or will we reasonably be able to beat it? And any of us like can have an off day, so you really had to learn to analyze groups, and you weren't just analyzing their performance in the game, but their personalities and how much time they had to commit and all these things. So it was really tough stuff. Again, were people getting tired? Were people getting burned out? Were people having bad runs? And because we were kind of limiting our info group to like CD and I and what we would read on the Reddit or like see on YouTube, it became like we were limited in the amount of experience we were bringing to the table. I'm gonna freeze this video up here and put our big buddy here up center stage. Roger. Well, let's get that little info thing off the screen first. Come on, come on. Oh, no, there. I thought I had a better shot there. Come on. Yeah, there we go. That way it's not in the way. All right, we're going to put Roger on our team here. Something that I was talking to when I asked CD if he would mind telling me this fellow's name, and I mentioned to him that I'm going to talk about him on the stream today, was that Roger was kind of a dick, but he also like pushed you to learn whether you could or couldn't do something, right? Can't. Go tackle that guy. 100 times out of 100, you can't. That's the fact. So what are you going to do? You're going to look at what your approach to this gaming is and like clean it up, right? Like it's difficult for me. I realize people would be watching this looking for advice because they want to be a can and not a can't. So my experience is using all of the things I'm laying out, rules 1 through 10. You absolutely always can, but well, that's not true. I was just always good at making sure that things I picked were a can and not a can't. Is it true? Say, look at like EDF, Earth Defense Force 4.1 is a game where you can always can as long as you have enough time. But so it became a different value proposition. Almost anyone always could, because you could farm up your character's life like up to an infinite level, and you could get like while you're doing that, you're getting better and better weapons. So eventually you can go into a level and just tank hits like mindlessly and defeat it instead of having to kind of like know what you're doing in that game. So while that game has like this infinite can value proposition, can you? Because like, do you have infinite time to get it to the infinite can? Sometimes, another thing the CD once said to me when he didn't say it in this particular case, when he's like, that guy was kind of a dick, but I miss him in my life, is like, there can be dicks out there and you put the dick on your team. He's your dick. He's an asshole, but he's our asshole. And we take that asshole and we point him at the other fucking team and like be an asshole to them. And it's like an amazing way to approach negative personalities that in a team-based environment to think about things like that. So Roger Caron, I salute you. He's like, there's things about, we'll talk real quick here about like higher order problems. Either you do a thing and then it's done, or you don't. So it's difficult in life. Sometimes things train you and teach you that you can just complain and get the thing you want. You could just bring a doctor's note. You could bring a note from your parents. You could just walk away and the government gives you money, or your parents give you money, or like a low amount of effort brings you a paycheck every week, and like that's it, right? You're subsisting and you're alive or whatever. So when we talk about like the 12 rules, it's like make a commitment. That's number one thing, is trying and doing, and otherwise you can't. Number one. Then when you're like, okay, so at the very least I'm going to try, and now I'm going to invest in myself, I'm going to spend the time. That's rule 2. And then I'm not going to just throw my energy at it and listen to people be like, you're a piece of shit, or you're like, oh, you're sick, go home, or whatever the hell, is the thing knocking you down. Like, do that research and be connected with people who want the best for you and are like making a commitment, investing in themselves and care about you. And then once you're like on that road, look at yesterday and say, am I better than yesterday? Did I practice? I have more total practice hours. That's incremental progress. I'm not comparing myself to the best guy in the world or the guys that have already done it or whatever. I did it. And I'm not gonna, that's rule 4. And then I'm not gonna let the game make me do things I don't like, that make me hate it. is really, I think, is where we ended up with that, like a better version of that. Don't let the game do things that make you hate it. And there's very little you can do, honestly, most of the time to change a game, but maybe you can change your approach. You can do that kind of stuff. And when you go, oh, right, because rule 6, sometimes it's not always the fault of the game. Sometimes it's you. You're ill-informed and you haven't, like, the experience. And perhaps you've been cheating to get to where you are of, like, whatever. There's codes to, like, get there. Or there's a shady economy thing you can pull off. That's rule 7, that cheating, while it's fun and can, like, bring short-term gains, it will ruin your long-term, like, excellence in gaming. And don't lie to yourself about that. Rule 8. Yeah, if you say, like, yeah, I'm cheating, but it makes the game, like, more fun for me. It's like, okay, maybe true in this term, but we are talking about making a commitment to making yourself better at games. So understand that when you take that shortcut and you lie to yourself and you start making that hydra of lies with its multiple heads, just don't lie to yourself and don't lie to the people you're with, which is, can you or can't you? Rule number 9. Rule number 9 is so close to rule 6, but sometimes the game is trying to teach you. Rule 9 should almost just be like, have an open mind. Realize when the game is, like, keeps shutting you down, or something in the game, like, happens, and it's like, you're like, what's with this mechanic and why is it just killing me? Why is it turning me from a can to a can't? Right? And then that's rule 10. What exactly is the problem? Is it time to go to bed? Yeah, for me in real life, it's getting pretty damn close there right now. So we're going to wrap this up. But maybe you're like, nah, I took a nap. I did all my homework. I worked hard, so I have some free time, and I'm going to play this game. So now what in the game is the problem? Is it like an entire approach that's wrong, or am I just doing something small that I'm forgetting? Like, oh, right, I'm supposed to, in Neo, like, do a combo and then do the chi recovery step at the end, and I haven't internalized that, so I'm going to go practice it, and now I'm a better player. Rules 11 and 12 are coming up, and they're a little more in line with like a rule 3 or 2, where there's a lot less in game, like, execution, like gameplay, controller in hand. Like, this is like a rule for this is going to be more of a rule, a meta rule for your life, which is like, don't ruin it for others. Realize when it's time to can't instead of can, and that's rule 11. And rule 12 will be like, when you find something you like, enjoy it, and all of these approaches will do these things for you. So, like, if you're not lying to yourself, and you're not blaming the game, and you're not cheating, and you're not making the game hate you because you're not interacting with it on all these levels, got to roll all of this shit together. It may just turn out like this is a can't for you. So in rule 11 will be realize when it's time to, at the very least, phrase criticisms that may even be legit and widely applicable. Even a widely applicable criticism might not be something that you're telling the people you're talking to, the audience you're targeting at the moment. And the vice versa will happen. It might be like the world's telling you, like, this game sucks. That happens to me with, like, Kin's Rage. And I'm like, I don't care. I enjoy it, and I'm having a lot of fun, and I got better at it, and all those aspects help. So we're going to talk about those. Let's knock it off here. This video is almost twice as long, as maybe 3 times longer than many of them. But I just wanted to do that recap on the end of the top 10 rules, and then we'll do rule 11 and 12. I think we'll do them in individual videos because I want to keep that up. And then I'm going to have a counterpoints stream to talk about, like, the problems with a lot of these things. So if you have any, like, higher order complaints of, like, this guy's, like, driving, this problem, it seems like it has this problem. I'm going to try and address some of those that I'm in my head. I'm like, yeah, there's always some problems. But can't. you can like, you can subscribe, you can give me feedback.